Hey Addicts, welcome back to another comic related video, and I'm not really sure if this is a full-on review or if it's more of like an addiction prescription, but it does have a few review-like elements because I read the whole thing, and we're here to talk about Kingsway West.
Yeah, I haven't read it.
No,
so
he hasn't read it.
Interview style.
Yeah, thankfully, it's like one of those that I just don't recommend. Because, and I'll tell you why though. I'm here to tell you why. And it's because I feel like it's not really worth it at the end. But to give you kind of a little bit of setup, if you watched the other video, East of West, it has not spot on, but it's very similar in like the playground where the setting is, and you got your Western elements. It's kind of set after like a huge war between the country. The country's split up into several factions. I think the main ones are like the Indians, the Mexicans, the Chinese, and then like the white Americans of like New York
Race
or whatever.
war.
Yeah, and so
we all know it's coming.
We follow this guy, the main character, Kingsway West, and he's like a retired like war veteran or something like that. He was on like one side, but then he fought for like revolutionaries, and everybody was like, "Oh, screw that guy," because he helped those people. And so he went into hiding, and it kind of shows that he's trying to mind his own business, but then people kind of interfere with him, and that leads to the beginning of the story, which I will say there's a lot of parts at the beginning of this book that just gripped me right off the get-go.
Grabbed you?
Yeah, it grabbed me. I really liked the story at the beginning, and like the whole story as a whole. It's one that I really like, but I can't really recommend it just because of how unsatisfying the ending is. I think it's rushed in a lot of ways. It's only like a 12-issue run. So, you got some problems when you're trying to, build everything up in that amount of time and then, or finish it or tear it down. And so that's kind of what I had. There's some good things about it. The illustrations, like the actual drawing style, I thought it looked really cool. The characters, for the most part, are pretty great. I would say probably the main guy has the most development, so he's still my favorite throughout reading. And then there's some twists in there that I think are done well. They're not anything over the top, but there was some that I didn't see coming. There's also parts of it that maybe why it feels a little bit flat to me is that some of the turns in the story don't have that big of impact because of how fast it is, because you don't really feel that big of a connection with the characters, even the characters that you do like. So it's like, what am I going to do?
Well, I mean, it is a shorter.
Yeah, I would say for a miniseries, it's pretty good. I can't say I've read too many miniseries. The ones I have read they're more of like 3 or 4 volumes. They're not just like 12 issues. And in volumes, you get a lot more story. You get a lot more to work around with. So this one, for it being the shortest one, it is impressive what they were able to do. It's just one that if you don't find, the setting intriguing, or if you don't really love like the setup for the story in like the first issue or two, you're probably not gonna like this, or you're just kind of gonna be like, take it or leave it. For me, for somebody that likes, Westerns in any shape or form, I did like it, so I would recommend it to people that are Western fans. It has more of a not sci-fi. It has more of a fantasy element than a sci-fi element. So for any of those people out there, like Michael, you would probably like this, considering because it has that fantasy side of things. But there's actually one part that's really cool that I won't spoil here in case anybody wants to see it. But it's a mixed bag for me, because it's the one that it's much like the East of West. I will say I liked it a lot more. It was just the thing that bothered me was how abruptly it has to end.
Because it's a miniseries.
What?
Because it's a
miniseries. Yeah, it's because it's a miniseries. It maybe one of the reasons why I was so upset about it is because going into it, I didn't know it was a miniseries, and so I was really looking forward to where the story was going to go. And I feel like even the story, when you read it, it really doesn't feel like it's supposed to be a miniseries. Like the way it's written, it feels like they're painting the world to where you're going to be in there a while. And so it's like we had to re-record this video, and the first analogy I used and the first thing I feel like fits it really well is like, you know, when you look at the horizon, you can see so far, and so it felt like you saw to like, you know, this point, but then in actuality it only got to here. So it feels
It's like if the Earth was flat. Be like, can't go.
So what you're saying is flat earthers should check this out.
Do whatever you want.
Well, it's set in the West, so there's not many hills, so you know. It does go with your theory. But, yeah, sorry, that wasn't supposed to be in here. But, yeah, it's like one of those stories that it feels like a cool, like, prologue to a bigger story. And I think that's one of the things about it. Because it feels like the guy, like, when I looked into it, it sounds like the author knew this was going to be like a miniseries. But the way he wrote it was like a full-blown series, and so knowing that, I think it's probably like a little bit poor on his decision to set it up like that. But again, you know,
who knows?
Yeah, exactly.
It's hard to write. But so if you had how would you rate like the universe, the stories around? Is it a really good universe, and do you want to explore more there?
I would say it's definitely worth it. I think, you know, because of it abruptly ending as soon as it did, I can't really rate it any higher than that because, you know, it felt like I barely got to see anything. But the world itself and the way it's set up, I would say it was definitely one of the most interesting settings I had seen in that genre. Also, the characters, I think they had potential for sure. Knowing that, you know, somebody's dealing, you know, has been through a lot, but you don't really get to see that, and then you get to play on like his history and how it's affecting, you know, his decision making going forward. It's always an interesting, you know, playground to have for a main character. So yeah, it was like one of those things where it almost feels like wasted potential in a sense, but it was definitely it would definitely pique my interest enough that I wanted to see more. So that's what I would say.
Well, that's pretty much it for our video. We recorded this 7 times, and we're back here today. And, you know, there's some positive things, there's some negative things, but at the end of the day, check out the universe and maybe check out the series.
Yeah, if might put a link to where you can read all of it for free. So I would
on that
suggest
note,
that.
later, Addicts.
Later.